Welcome back. All right, news of the day video for your Good Friday, April the 7th, 2023. All that fun stuff. So a lot of it injury news. Let's go ahead and dive in. Talking about the Minnesota Wild. I'm wearing Iowa because why not? So Eriksson is out week to week. It's an upper body injury. That's not great news. That's going to hurt the Minnesota Wild, especially the week to week part. Because remember, we've only got a week left in the regular season. So that means Eriksson probably misses the start of the playoffs. So if you're a Wild fan, you're probably hoping it's just the week, but even still, they're in a battle for first place in the division. That makes things more difficult. Now, Kaprizov is returning tomorrow, so that's the good news. While Sundqvist may not play tomorrow, there's some debate about how long Sundqvist might be out. He's seen his day-to-day, but Kaprizov being back will be great. So Kaprizov gets a chance to get his 40th goal. He's currently sitting at 39. And Minnesota needs him right now because without Eriksson, they're going to need somebody who can drive the offense. The thing being, though, Eriksson plays down the middle. Kaprizov doesn't, so it's a different dynamic there altogether. But here's to hoping Minnesota can keep everything going into the playoffs. On the Toronto side of things, last night with the results turning out the way they did, they have clinched home ice against the Tampa Bay Lightning. I like their chances in part because Tampa Bay is kind of a walking wounded bunch right now, and they haven't looked like Tampa Bay this year. Plus, Toronto's very good at home, and Tampa Bay's been mediocre on the road for most of the season. So, really, in all honesty, I would say this is their best opportunity to get out of the first round. The problem is, I said that with Montreal. I said that with Columbus. That was a qualifying round with Columbus. And so, yeah, it remains to be seen and what's going to happen with Toronto. But with O'Reilly getting back and them being relatively healthy, I think Toronto's in pretty good shape. The Ottawa Senators, it's the sixth straight season where they failed to reach the playoffs, and there's an expectation that there might be some big changes. The one thing you have to watch for is overcorrecting, where a team doesn't, match up to what's expected of them, and you go out and you make huge changes that aren't necessarily for the better, and yet making things worse. So I don't think Ottawa's going to do that. But for the Sens, it has been a disappointing season. Were we expecting too much for them? Probably. And the reality is that there's a lot of young players here who are still growing into their roles. And so for Ottawa, it's just a matter of, pick yourself up and figure out what they need to do for next year. I think they need they need that consistent goaltending, and they need to make sure they've got the right guys on that blue line. I think their forward group is excellent, but I think it's in net and it's on the blue line where they need to make minor improvements. It's not like they're 20, 30 points out anymore, but they do need to make some improvements. So with the results from last night too, Nashville's impressive win over Carolina, UC Saros in the zone, and now they've got their playoff lives in their own hands. They're 1 point back of a playoff spot, but their next two games, tomorrow they're in Winnipeg, so that is huge. And then on Monday, they're in Calgary. So they're against the two teams they're competing for playoff spots with. Winnipeg and Calgary don't play each other again from here. And so Nashville's kind of in control of this. If they win both of those games, especially in regulation, they probably make the playoffs. And remember, they sold at the deadline, and it was seen that, well, Nashville's probably done. When I was talking about which teams were in a rebuild or not in a rebuild, there were Preds fans saying, "Where's Nashville?" Well, they're right near the playoffs right now, so it may not be important. If Nashville makes the playoffs with the changes that were made at the deadline, that would probably mean John Hines keeps his job. In fact, they've played well enough, and they're close enough, that I wouldn't be entirely surprised if Barry Trotz says, yeah, no, he'll keep his job if he doesn't make a change behind the bench. Because I think Trotz understands the importance of continuity. Remember how long Trotz was there in Nashville? He was there a long time. So I don't think he's going to be quick to pull the trigger on a change behind the bench. Thomas Greiss, lower body injury for him. He's done for the season, which, not to sound crass or anything, but it's a week for St. Louis because they're not going to be in the playoffs. Greiss, when he signed in the offseason, just the 1 year contract with St. Louis. It was to provide that veteran goaltending depth. And it's been an up and down season for Greiss, as it has been for Binnington as well. The defense in front of them, of course, has let them down too. But for Greiss, this could be the end of his career. Age 36, I think he's 36, could be 37 at this point. But either way, we'll see whether or not this is the end of his career, or if somebody else picks him up as a backup goaltender next season. Mikko Rantanen makes some history last night. in that he joins a very exclusive club when it comes to players from Finland who've scored 50 goals. Jari Kurri and Teemu Selanne, the only other two that have done it. And he has a really good chance of, if his career keeps going the way that it is, easily being third on the list of Finnish goal scorers. Olli Jokinen is number 3 on that list. So it's less than 100 goals between Rantanen and third spot, although Barkov's ahead of him. And Barkov's going to score a bunch of goals before his career is done, too. It's a pretty good time for Finnish hockey fans, I think, when it comes to the National Hockey League. But kudos to Rantanen on getting that 50th goal, and then the 51st, and then the 52nd. And he's also sitting at 98 points. So he's got a really good chance of finishing with 100. And Colorado has a pretty good chance of finishing first in the division. Tanner Jeannot could be out for a while. So it was an injury last night, which Bolts fans are not entirely happy about. Felt there should have been something on the play, and there's nothing from player safety either on it, so that hasn't got them happy either. But Jeannot could be out for quite a while. It looked like it was a leg injury, and John Cooper saying it didn't look good. So that's where we're at with Tampa Bay, a team that's already dealing with a bunch of banged up, bruised up players and injuries and whatnot. And again, it's at that time of year where you really don't want to have those injuries piling up. If it's early in the year, you kind of soldier through it. But at this point, it's bad news. And so it looks like Jeannot probably won't be ready for the start of the playoffs. We haven't got an official timeline as of yet. Usually when I say that, the timeline comes out while I'm recording the video. But Jeannot could be out for a while. I haven't heard any updates on Maroon. It doesn't sound like Maroon's as bad off. I didn't put Boston on the board with McAvoy because it was seen as more an abundance of caution with McAvoy being taken out of that game against Toronto last night. So we'll find out soon, because teams don't always tell us the 100% truth about who will or won't be starting in the playoffs and about how long players are going to be out. And I agree. You know, there was an idea that, you know, when the NHL paired up with the gambling community, that the gambling community likes to have some certainty there. We really don't see it from the NHL, and I really haven't seen pushback from that community either. But it doesn't mean that that's not going to happen soon. Because again, if you're putting money down on a game, it's good to know who is or isn't in the lineup and what's wrong with a player. And in the NHL, you don't know either of those things before a game gets started until you're really, really close to that start time. So keep in mind the regular season ends a week from today. Tomorrow there's 16 games. Monday there's 10. Tuesday there's 10. Thursday there's, I think, 15 on Thursday. And then 2 on Friday, and I believe the ones on Friday were moved from earlier in the season to that date. And then next Saturday, it's street hockey for me, my first street hockey game of the year. So meet up with subscribers and looking forward to it. It's been a while, and according to the long-term forecast, which you can't trust anyways, but according to the long-term forecast, it's forecasting 19 degrees Celsius, which is about 70 Fahrenheit, and sunny, which is kind of perfect. So at any rate, hopefully that holds up, and I'll have that going on next Saturday when there's no hockey. So tomorrow night's power rankings are the second to last of the season, and then that's done as well until we're into the summer and then getting into the fall and getting ready for the season. I usually do one about midway through the summer, and then I'll do one just before the regular season gets started. At any rate, there you go. Thank you guys so much for all your support. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. I will talk to you guys again soon.